Hey there, puzzlers! My name is FLEB, and today we're going to be solving a classic puzzle, the 6-piece Burr. The 6-piece Burr is a very old puzzle, dating back to the early 1900s, with Oscar Brown's patent in 1917 being the earliest mention. Each piece is cut from a solid wooden block like this. If you were to break this down into cubes, you could put 6 cubes here, 2 there, and 2 there. So you can see that would be the size of one of the cubes that is cut out there. Each puzzle is assembled into the same shape, which is the shape shown here. It's a very interesting puzzle, and assembling something like this takes quite a bit of organizational effort to organize your thinking about it. And so today, I'm going to solve it and show you how you can organize your thinking while solving 6-piece Burr puzzles. Let's get started. When solving a 6-piece Burr, you know what the final shape is going to look like. And so, unlike a lot of puzzles where you might be trying to open something, in puzzles like this where you're building it up, you can use the final shape as a way to think about how to solve it. So this is what the final shape looks like. And if we look at this, there's a couple of interesting things about it. First, you could divide each of these pieces up into 6 different blocks, just like we said before. And if you do that, 2 2x2 squares are shown on either side. So you have 2 pieces sandwiched together, each of which has a square like this shown on the outside. We're going to use that fact. Now that we've seen that interesting property, let's figure out how to organize our thinking about assembling this. First off, I'm going to label the pieces so that we don't get them mixed up. And I'm going to be very careful to return them to their label when I'm done using them. Now remember, when the puzzle was fully assembled, there were 2 squares sticking out on either side. So we know for a fact that if a piece like this, for example, has only one side where there are 2 2x2 squares, that has to be facing the outside of the puzzle. We can use that to our advantage. Let's assume that A was the piece that went vertically, like this, so that squares were facing the outside of the puzzle here. We know there has to be another piece that goes horizontally in this shape. So what would happen if it was something like B? Well, B also only has one side that has 2 2x2 squares, which is this one. This side is the outside of the puzzle, so this would have to fit something like this. To view that from another angle, that would look like this. Notice that the piece B is exactly in the middle. It's got its 2 squares on either side, and piece A is overlapping 2 of the squares on one of the sides. If we were to use something like piece E, it could also fit even though there aren't squares there. It'd be something like this. Now, the problem with starting with piece A is that piece A works with all of these pieces. What we'd like to do in order to reduce the possibility is start with a piece that's hard to match with. Piece E only has one side with the 2x2 squares. It's this one here. And on the other side it has this big block. That's going to be hard to work with. For example, in the simplest of these, piece C, which is just this solid rectangular block, is never going to be able to fit in the center there. What can? Well, can A fit there? Yeah, A can fit there. Can B fit there? B's never going to fit there, because its side with the 2x2 squares doesn't have a notch in it. You're going to need a notch on this side in order to fit with this piece. What about something like D? D has a little notch, but you actually need a 2 square notch to fit around this 2x2 square here. So D doesn't work either. What about F? Could F work with this piece? Well, here's the side with the 2x2 squares. And it looks like it slots right in there. So yes, F could work with this piece as well. So when we look at piece E, there's only 2 possibilities. It's either going to be working with piece A, or it's going to be working with piece F. That's a lot fewer possibilities for our first 2 pieces than if we started with piece A. So let's write down those 2 different possibilities. Let's say we had EA. We already have E and A put together here, But what about the piece that has to go here, vertically? If you imagine where my pencil is, there's another piece there that has to go there for this to be a 6-piece burr. Well, we know the outside of the puzzle is facing this way now. So for something like this, where there's 2 by 2 by 2 squares on the outside, it has to face the outside like this. And you can see that piece would work there. So B is a possibility for a piece that could work with E and A. What about C? C can't fit in there. D? D could fit in there. And F? F could fit in there as well. So there are 3 different possibilities for the next piece that could go in. EAB, EAD, and EAF. What would happen if you put EAB in? There's only one way it can go in. And now we can look for a 4th piece. You might look at the piece that is going where my pencil currently is. Clearly can't be C. Could it be D? Could be D. Could it be F? Remember that these have to face the outside. It could be F, like this. Note that even though this piece fits in here, we immediately know that this is not a valid configuration of the burr. And the reason we know that is because there's no place for this piece to fit. It would either have to go here, where there's not a hole, or it would have to go here, where there's not a hole. So EABF is not actually a possible configuration. You can go back and try D there as well. By going through the same sort of logic, EABD doesn't work either. Overall, this means that EAB can't work. In the interest of time, I've skipped ahead and tried a few of the other possibilities. And now there's just one remaining. E, F, and D for the first 3 pieces. And there's only one way in which that works. Now for that 4th piece, there's only 2 possibilities, either A or B. A would fit. If it does, this would have to be C here, and B would block it. And the final possibility is that B is that piece instead, slotting in like this. That has to be C, so the only piece that's remaining is the partner to this guy, which has to be A. And sure enough, that final possibility, we happen to get very unlucky on this puzzle, is the possibility that works, with C being the last piece that you fit into the puzzle. The main idea here is that if we organize our thinking, we can find a way to try all the different possibilities of the puzzle. What we did is we labeled all the pieces and started looking at which pieces had to work together to make this final shape. This technique can be used all over the place in puzzles. Oftentimes you're looking for ways, not necessarily to find the right combination right away, but at least to reduce the possibilities to a number that you could search by yourself. A quick note about Burr puzzles is that they often come assembled, and that unassembling them, if you keep track of what you're doing, you can often reassemble it. But I find it's more fun just to disassemble it as quickly as possible, and then try to figure out a way to get it back together. I hope that you learned something new about Burr puzzles today. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and as always, happy puzzling!